Hey guys, I'm Kristen Howerton. I blog at Rage Against the Minivan. I grew up evangelical and now consider myself a post-evangelical Christian.
I'm Elizabeth Esther and I blog at elizabethesther.com. I grew up evangelical fundamentalist and now I am Catholic.
And we are here together to talk about what happened this week on the net in regards to faith and Christianity. Elizabeth and I are both bloggers and we're both avid readers of faith blogs, and so we kind of want to give a weekly recap of what's going on. So Elizabeth, what was the big word this week?
Virginity.
Virginity. Virginity was the word, the V word.
And you know what's really interesting was none of it was planned. I wrote this post on Monday, and then Sarah Bessie posted this post on Tuesday. Rachel Held Evans did a follow-up post, and I think there's like more coming out that we had we did not get together and talk, and it was just like there.
But what prompted you? I mean, what prompted you to kind of speak up, you know, not against, but maybe challenge a little bit of this purity culture? What prompted you? Was there something that happened?
There's been a series of posts that I've seen recently that are still really promoting that idea of like why it's good to wear a purity ring and really sort of encouraging this idea that not doing anything like not kissing, not holding hands, that it's virginity plus like, you know, not having a boyfriend, waiting until you're married to do anything of any kind. And it really just puts a lot of pressure, I feel, on young people, and it's also a very sort of shame-based way of promoting the purity culture. And so I wanted to kind of share my own experience with that and also just how it affected me. And I could not believe the comments and the stories that just poured in from people saying, I was told that if I waited I would have such a better married sex life. I was told it was going to be magical, and I was sort of guaranteed to kind of have this Christian Prince Charming come along who was going to be pure, and we were going to have a magical sex life together. And just how devastating. Also really interesting too, like some people who had never even had like basic sex ed on their first night together.
Oh, no kidding. Painful,
awkward, and traumatizing. And it just seems like there's this huge hole where hole.
You said hole.
See, this is why we need to talk about it. Because you have to just, like, it's funny. Sex is funny and awkward, and it just seems like there's nowhere we can talk about it. We're just like, we can be funny and awkward and honest without being like, and in 1 Corinthians, you know.
Well, so inevitably, you're saying perhaps this purity movement, this like emphasis on virginity, is setting up girls who don't meet that mark to feel a lot of shame.
Yes.
And so inevitably, I'm guessing you're having people who are now saying that you're soft on sin, that you're what you don't believe in, you know, waiting until marriage. Is that what you're saying?
Yes. And Sarah Bessie was sort of getting some of that same feedback of like, you know, we don't have a holy hatred of sin, and, you know, this isn't the gospel, and Jesus died for these things. And, you know, this is really where I have a very hard time, which is Jesus was not, he knew what sin was. He was a devout Jew, but there's never one indication of him in the Gospels of ever shaming someone. In fact, when the woman is brought to him in adultery, caught in the act, he doesn't shame her. They want to make a public example of her and make a public spectacle and be like, rah, 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 and stone her right there. And instead, what does he say? He who is without sin cast the first stone. And I think that is something that's so lacking in the conversation right now. The whole like true love waits and the purity rings and the pledges and the purity balls, and, you know, all this talk about it is not promoting purity. It's promoting almost like this weird fetishization. Is that a word?
Yeah.
Fetish of it?
Fetishization.
Yeah. Something.
We think it's a word.
Okay.
Well, it is definitely creating this bar that, you know, I don't know if it's really taking into account that, you know, 80% of high school students are going to lose their virginity.
Right.
Not that that's ideal, but it's reality. And so when our churches are emphasizing purity, what does that do for the girls and boys who have not met that, you know, who've crossed that line? And it does seem to set up this sort of holy mark of this one sin or this one, you know, thing being kind of like going beyond.
Right. Well, and it's interesting because it sets up one thing where, and like everything else is sort of a lesser sin.
Yeah.
Right?
Because I don't really recall having, a gossip ring that I was supposed to take off.
A gossip ring?
Or, I mean, really. Or,
no, that's right.
Or a lying ball. Or an honesty ball. Where we promise to be honest forever and ever.
And somebody knights you on the shoulder.
I mean, it really is
is
a bizarre yardstick for sin. I mean, granted, it's not ideal, but I mean,
and we're not saying that it's not a sin.
Right.
No, none of the Christians that I've read have not said, well, now we're just going to change the Bible entirely, and no one's saying that. What we are saying is we are rejecting a culture of shaming, and we're rejecting a culture of fear-based language.
Absolutely.
And we are also we want to change the conversation and build a culture of understanding, like, church is supposed to be for sinners.
Right.
This is where you go because you are human. I mean, it's for human beings. He didn't come to like save people who are perfect and good.
Well, and it's not fair for youth pastors to continue with this rhetoric of if you've lost your virginity, your sex will be ruined forever.
Yeah.
Using these analogies, everybody spit in a cup, pass it around the room. That's what you're like if you've had sex before you're married, and your husband has to do it with that.
Yeah.
I mean, it's not true. It's not biblical, and it's not helpful. All it does is shame the people. It is fear-based. It's making girls feel, and boys too, although I really truly think that this is directed more at girls.
Absolutely it is.
Making them feel dirty, and making them feel like the reason to avoid sex is because you'll be dirty and broken if you slip up in this area, which just absolutely is not the case. I mean, and I can say, I'm a marital counselor. I see couples who have done, everything before marriage and couples who waited, and that is not a yardstick for how well a marriage is going to go. It's no predictive measure of how a person's sex life is going to go later on. Like, God is not withholding good sex from people who've slipped up in this area.
Right, because we're not like appliances. We're not like the refrigerator, and if you break your suddenly used goods, and you're never going to be able to refrigerate milk again. I mean, we're human beings. So a lot of this language is so objectified, like it turns women into objects, and why buy the cow if you're getting the milk for free? Like, well, number one, I'm not a cow.
Yeah.
I'm not an appliance. I'm not something you can buy and sell.
Yeah.
But a lot of our language around it is like this language of buying and selling.
Well, and it's also very black and white.
Yeah.
I mean, you're pure or you're broken.
Right. It's very either
gross.
Or. It's very either or.
Yeah.
And also we say things like, ew, that's disgusting. Like that is the language that is used for it. So it creates this like visceral response of like, oh, it's dirty.
Yeah.
Ooh, you're defiled.
Well, and I will say, again, as a therapist, if anything, the thing that I see people having hang-ups over is being told their entire life that sex is bad, wrong, and then having to make the transition to, oh, I'm married now, sex is great and lovely. And I really see people struggling with
personal
that.
example. Okay, honestly, how it was so hard for me.
That's what she said.
Like all these years of no, stop, and then wedding night, bam, I'm a porn star.
Yeah.
And we're gonna get in bed, and I'm gonna be sexy, and I'm gonna I could not relax. Number one, I mean, how do you go from all of that to now all of a sudden it's yes and it's open season?
I think that's a huge struggle for people.
It really is.
I also think the other lie that's being told is if you wait until your wedding night, you will have the most amazing sex ever. Newsflash. If you've waited till your wedding night, it will be the worst sex ever. Now, it'll get way better, but that's
awkward.
a lie.
It's just awkward.
That is a lie. It's going to be awkward. It might be painful.
Yeah.
That will be the worst sex you ever have. It will only get better.
Yes.
It will only get better.
And maybe on the rare person, it's fantastic, but it's not the rule.
It's
because
not.
we're human beings.
Yeah.
Like, you can't turn us on and off with a button.
Yeah.
It takes time. I mean, this is why they have whole books about sex, because it's like a woman's orgasm is like very complicated.
Yeah, but this is why I get people coming to my office angry because they waited and now they're having problems, and this is not what was in the brochure at the purity ball.
That's right.
It was Not supposed to go this way.
Okay, and FYI, like, don't use vanilla scented lotion as lube because you might get a bladder infection. Nobody told me that before my wedding day, and I came home from my honeymoon with the worst urinary tract infection. Because KY jelly. Somebody should have said something.
They should have. That's the best. That's the best gift you can give to someone on their wedding night. Really, KY. Hook a brother up. Hook a sister up. Don't buy them dishes.
Just gift registry.
Walgreens.
There you go. Oh my goodness.
Anywho. We're curious to hear what you guys think about this whole, the whole purity culture. And I mean, obviously, I think I do want to, reiterate, because I'm sure we'll get this backlash. I think it's great to encourage kids to wait.
Yes.
To have sex until their wedding night.
Let the record show. That's what we're saying.
Yes.
Yes.
But we cannot do it in a way that is shaming other people, that is giving false promises, that is making sex seem dirty. Mm-hmm. We can't do it out of fear. We have to do it out of, coming from a different place, and a place of education.
Yeah.
And a place of informed choice.
Right.
But anyway, I'm curious to hear what you guys think of this whole virginity and purity conversation. And were you involved in something like that? Did you go to True Love Wait campaigns as a teen? Did you have a promise ring, and how did that go for you? And what are your thoughts about the whole backlash against it?
And your thoughts about lube.
Yeah, what are the good ones? You can link up.